Good afternoon. Back with Shakespeare's The Tempest. And before we move on to Act 1, Scene 1, let me tell you that I did try a lot of different techniques of how best to have this interactive session with you all, but unfortunately, there are a lot of very stringent copyright laws about certain videos to be shown and some audios that cannot be used. So I've gone back to my uh, display board here, and probably I'll use some other formats for the following sessions, right? So before anything else, let me start off with the characters. I thought I'll put up all the characters so that from the very beginning you all get this absolutely clear in your head. You have Alonso, who is the king of Naples, right? Sebastian, who is Alonso's brother. So remember, as Alonso and Sebastian, brother. Then you have Ferdinand, who is the prince, Alonso's son. Gonzalo, who is the councillor of Naples, and he has a very important role to play, as we'll come to know later in the scene. You have Adrian, Francisco, they are the two lords belonging to Naples court. You have Stefano, a butler, and Trinculo, a jester. Now, all the names which are written in the darkest shade all belong to the court of Alonso, King of Naples, right? Now we see them on the ship, right? Then comes the next group who, who will be introduced to us on the island, and I put them all together as one. Of course, there is from here, if you see, Prospero is the true Duke of Milan, not when the play opens. Antonio, Prospero's brother, who is the usurper, who's actually taken over the power from his brother. He also is on the ship. He's the only one, but I put him along with the family of Prospero. So I've sort of distinguished it between the groups of families they belong to, though Antonio does come on the ship. So you have as a as Alonso Sebastian, and you have Pa, PA, for Prospero and brother Antonio, right? Miranda, who is Prospero's daughter, who will find the only female character, important female character. They reference to other female characters, but not important at all. Then you have Ariel, who is a spirit in Prospero's service. You will see how important Ariel's role is. You have Caliban, the savage slave to Prospero. Like I said, everybody is linked to Prospero. All the names in red are linked to Prospero, directly or indirectly. Yes, and then Master and Bosun, I have put them separately because they only appear on the ship. And then I have put the mariners. That's another group. So I've got the two groups at the end, mariners and you have the other spirits. So there'll be one scene where you'll get to see other spirits that are there, who belong to uh, under the beck and call of Ariel, right? So these are the other spirits. Now, I deliberately put up the characters so that it becomes very convenient for you to have a clear view about it. I'll have to remove this sheet before I move on to Act 1, Scene 1. So give me a second, right? Because I decided to use the board, so I have written a few things which you will find interesting, and I have to. Okay, right. So we have details about Act 1, Scene 1 here, and like I told you, the board I have written out what's important with Act 1, Scene 1. The Tempest opens with a storm at sea, and it gives the drama its title, The Tempest. So, the storm at sea is what gives the drama its title. And if you look at the setting, it is on the ship and there's a storm brewing. There's a debate between Bosun, Gonzalo, Alonso, Sebastian, and Antonio about survival. So, if I'm looking at the broader theme which is there in this scene, it is this debate that goes on about survival, right? Of course, there are a few lines which are extremely important. But if you see in the very beginning of the scene, this entire scene, Bosun talks about, he's the master has abdicated his responsibility. Now, don't pay attention to what I've written on the board. Take out your text in the first part. You see, master from the very beginning, good speak to the mariners, fall to it yarly, or we run ourselves aground, we stir with stir. So he sort of abdicated his responsibility and given it to the bosun, and so the bosun is now in charge to help in this process of survival. And you see this use of the words vistor, yarily, hey ho, yeah, everything is in the sense of movement, quickness. You need to show your skills quickly because we have to work very fast if we need to save the ship from sinking, right? We can't allow the ship to sink. If the ship sinks, everyone will be drowned. So bestir, like, come on, arouse yourself, get up, uh, put all your energies now because we really have to save this ship from sinking, right? And then of course you have Alonso, uh, Gonzalo, Sebastian, Antonio who enter, uh, and immediately Alonso, because he's a king, he says, "Where's the master?" Because you would expect the master to be there leading. Yes, I pray, but Bosun is absolutely, he doesn't care who is asking him what questions. He said, "Now, please, I pray now keep below." Where is the master, Bosun? Do you not hear him? Do you not hear him? Yes, do you not hear him? Can you not understand what I'm saying? I'm asking you all to go below. You mar our labor, keep your cabins. So this is what I've written on the board. Very important section. When the bosun says, please keep to your cabins, you do assist the storm. So what is it? I mean, we are working here trying to save the ship. You all don't know what needs to be done to save the ship at this point in time. So do not hinder our work. You mar our labor. Do not hinder our work. Go down. Because if you're going to be up here and disturbing us, you're only going to help the storm in doing what it's planning to do, that is, help this ship to sink. So, because you are going to stop us from doing our work, and that is indirectly you will be helping the storm. So, go down to your cabin. What does Gonzalo say? He is a counselor. Nay, good, be patient. Now, why are you talking to us so rudely? We also want to talk about survival, yes? And then, what does Bosun say? I will be patient when the sea is patient. Yes? Because this is not the time for me to be patient. We have to be agog. We have to be active. We have to save the ship. And then he says, hence, what care these rowers for the name of king? It doesn't matter. The waves, the sea, the tempest do not distinguish between one man and the other. Just because it's a king on board, I shall not sink the ship. It does not happen. Nature treats everyone equally. It does not distinguish. And that is the thought that Bosun says very clearly. What cares these rowers for the name of king? It doesn't bother. The waves are not it does not concern them who is on board the ship. They will hit with the same intensity. If the ship has to sink, it will sink with that effect. It doesn't matter if there's a king or a duke or a prince on board the ship. It doesn't matter. Yes. But what I need is to cabin silence. Trouble us not. Do not trouble us. Do not hinder our work. So you see, this dichotomy is what I have put here on the board. There is a dichotomy. There is a clash of power. That's a very important theme. You see, Alonso, because he's a king, and Antonio and Sebastian, and because Gonzalo is a counselor, and they all belong to the court of the nobility, they believe it's their birthright to demand for answers to the question. But at the time of crisis and on the ship, whose word should be the last word? The master, right? But here the master has abdicated his responsibility. So whose word should be the last word? The bosun. That's why he says, trouble us not, silence, just go down. Yes? Gonzalo repeats himself, good, yet remember whom thou hast aboard. He said, good, I'm happy to go, but please do remember whom you have on board. Yes, that there is a king and you need to save. look at Bosan's answer to this, which is a very important part of your text. It's a line 20. None that I more love than myself. What does he say? None that I, oh, sorry for this, none becoming a little faint. None that I more love than myself. You don't have, I mean, very simple. I don't have to think about others on this ship. I want to save this ship because I value my own life. I love myself more than anybody else. So I am going to save the ship because I want to live, right? And each sailor will work towards saving the ship because each one wants to survive, right? So it doesn't matter. Don't show me who is on board the ship. It doesn't matter to me. I need to save the ship because I want to be alive. And that is the most important. None that I more love than myself. So, uh, and then he goes on to tell Gonzalo that you're a counselor. If you think you can ask these waves not to show their inclement selves that they're showing now, then you're most welcome here to do the work. But if you cannot use your authority for anything else other than helping our work, then I do not want you to be here. And he says, and there's a pun on the word hand. And he says, if you can command these elements to silence and work the peace of the present, we will not hand a rope more. Use your authority. If you cannot, give thanks you have lived so long. Yes. So that's what he says, that if you cannot contribute towards saving the ship from drowning, if you cannot command these waves, yes, to not to come aboard the way it is, the impact of it that is toppling the ship, then you have no business to be here. But if you can do it, we'll hand it to you. So, use of the word, if you can hand the waves, we will hand over power to you. But if you can't handle it, then please go downstairs. Right? So, he keeps, give thanks that you've lived so long. Be grateful that you have survived for so long. Yes. Then go down and say your prayers. Yes. Make yourself ready in your cabin for the mischance of the hour, but out of the way. Do not disturb us. Gonzalo's response is very important here. I have great comfort from this fellow. Methinks he hath no drowning mark upon him. I have great comfort from this fellow. Methinks he hath no drowning mark upon him. He's rude. The bosun is rude. The bosun is insolent. The way he behaves, it is very, very clear that he will die for contempt of authority and he will be hanged to death. It is written, it is obvious the way he behaves. So, if it is obvious that destiny has death by hanging designed for him, I am comforted because that means he cannot die drowning. If he doesn't die drowning, that means the ship will be saved and all of us will also be saved. So you understand Gonzalo's logic. Yes, he says he's insolent, he is contemptuous, he looks down on authority, he challenges authority. So he is definitely going to be hanged for this insolence. And because his very complexion shows that he is bound to be hanged, I am very comforted because then I know that the ship won't sink because he can't die by drowning and we will all be saved. If he be not born to be hanged, our case is miserable. But of course, if now destiny decides, no, let me change what I have for prescribed for the bosun and let him not die by hanging, then we are doomed. Yes. So let destiny stick to what she had decided for bosun. Yes, that way we will be saved. So, and then you see from line 35 onwards, the bosun is again conducting his activities. Down with the topmast, quickly bring it down without delay right now. The main course. Then, they below the deck there's a lot of crying and howling because they feel, what happens is below the deck the impact of it is felt more. Yes, a plague upon this. And then when he hears it, he says, oh God, a plague upon this howling. They are louder than the weather of the office. The amount of noise that the people down in the cabins are making is much more than the sound of the tempest, the fury of the tempest, and also the immense noise that has been created by the crew in the process of trying to save the ship. So unnecessary noise is coming from the cabins below. Yet again, what do you hear? Again, they come back. Sebastian, Antonio, and Gonzalo come back. And here, from lines 40 to about 49, you will find that Sebastian and Antonio actually display how crass and ill feeling people they are. Because the kind all through these lines, they are only cursing the bosun. They call him uncharitable dog, they call him blasphemous, like they are cursing him, a plague on your throat. So it's, they are sort of showing their absolute displeasure towards the bosun. And bosun is not bothered. And Antonio says, hang, cur, hang, you insolent noisemaker. We are less afraid to be drowned than thou art. Big talk, bravado. That's what Antonio is. Come on, you are an insolent noisemaker. You're only making noise. You're not actually doing any work. You think we are afraid of drowning? I mean, then do something, right? That will be the question that bosun will ask. You're only standing and screaming and shouting. You are not doing any work to help the ship from not from sinking. Yes, and Gonzalo keeps repeating, "I warrant him for drowning." Though the ship is no stronger than a nutshell, the ship is weak. But he is not going to die drowning. Then the bosun continues. He is not bothered. Lay off, go this way, pull the rope, lay off course. Yes, hold it steady. Hold the rope steady, close to the wind. Yes, the course. Set her two courses. That this entire the sails which are attached to the sailing ship. So set her, put her right, so that the two courses, that is the front sail and the main sail, are at at the right angles to each other, so that they don't go against the wind and they don't blow away. But then you hear the sound of mariners saying, all lost to prayers. So that the very thought that they've given up. And then, that entire doubt of bosun, oh, what, must our mouths be cold? I mean, do we give up? And then, what, must our mouths be cold? Why cold? Because we are going to drown in this water which is cold. So we're going to die with that cold feeling within us. So Gonzalo saying, let's go help the king and the prince because they're downstairs at prayers. But Antonio and Sebastian show their impatient self. We are cheated out of our lives by drunkards, the white-chap rascal. And then he goes on to talk about an ancient tradition that was there. Pirates, when they were caught, they were hanged, and they were kept at a certain angle from the shore, so that each time when they would be hanged at a low tide, right? And each time there would be high tide, the water would come and dash against his body, causing more injury. So he says that we are going to hang this bosun. He's like that, like if I ever get hold of him, we'll hang him like we hang the pirates, so that even after 10 tides, he would still be dashed against the shore again and again. This is an example of showing the extreme. He needs to suffer for what he is making us go through. Yes. But Gonzalo, I'm sure he'll be hanged. Though, if I look around, he says, every drop of water swear against it. Though it's quite obvious that we are going to sink, the ship is sinking. But I still feel, that he has no drowning mark upon him. He has to be hanged. So holding on to the last, the strand affair that you have, the last hope, the last blade of grass you hold on to, which is weak, but you hold on to that thought that he will be hanged, so he cannot be drowned. Even though it appears that the ship is like a big mouth that has opened up. And what is happening? The mouth is ready to gulp us down. Yes? farewell, and you hear the noise, we are splitting, we are splitting. It's a wooden boat, so it's breaking into half, and then let's all sink with the king. But let's visit the last four lines of Gonzalo. Now would I give 1,000 furlongs of sea for an acre of barren ground. At this point in time, what can I see? I can see miles and miles of water, right? I don't want these miles of unending water. In exchange of that, I don't mind an acre, a small piece of barren, um, infertile, laden with thorns and bushes and absolutely inhabitable, but piece of solid ground is what I would want under my feet, because then I know that I am not going to drown in this limitless ocean. Yes, but I really wish I had this ground, because I would fain die a dry death. I would prefer to die on lying on the ground, on the earth, rather than this unknown drowning into sense of oblivion this water is, right? Because you don't know how deep it is, you don't know how much you have to go down till you finally touch the bottom, right? So you see, Act 1, Scene 1, like I said, it is about survival, as I have written on the board, the survival and this the con- the opposition that is very clear, the bosun and the mariners on one side, and the kings, the people belonging to the king Alonso's court on the other side. So there are two sets of power, they come into conflict. But as it is evident here on the ship, the power of the bosun and the mariners should should be predominant, and that's exactly what happens. And you also have these two classes of people, each one trying to show their superiority. But who is right in this case? On the ship, the bosun is right in dictating terms to the others, because the others don't know what it means. The others don't know what a tempest can do to a ship and how a ship can be saved. So he has got every right to dictate to the others. The nobility do not have the right. And therefore, if you notice, Alonso just has one sentence. Where is the master? He's looking for the authority. When he sees the authority is not there, it's with the bosun, he moves away. Because that is true nobility. Sebastian and Antonio, from the very beginning, are the ones who are absolutely, you can say, they're the very extreme negativity that you can find in human beings is very evident in them. They are very shallow. They are extremely shallow, extremely crass, and they're all those wannabes, those who do not have actual power but boast of having a lot. And naturally, they will come into conflict with somebody as strong as the bosun, who has no respect for authority, because on the ship, his word is the final word, and the master has given him that authority. So nobody else can take it away from him. So you see, the scene is set. You have the master who is abdicated, the bosun who is a workaholic. For him, saving the ship is what matters. Gonzalo is the more diplomat, trying to sort of ease out the tension between the nobility and the crew. Sebastian and Antonio, very evident, are the weaklings in this plot, and Alonso is a quiet king who realizes his position, goes back into his cabin, and the Tempest actually is the protagonist here, because everybody is at its mercy. It dictates the play in Act 1, Scene 1, right? We'll move on to Act 1, Scene 2 in the next class. Till then, do revisit this lesson. If you have any questions, do put it in the comment section. See you also.